You are now listening to the Pelicans post-game report. Flash report.
Shout out to the fam, man. For all things Pelicans, you're now tuned into the Pelican post-game report. Shout out to you guys. I'm Big Q. In this episode of PPR Flash Report, man, we up in this thing talking Pels. Now, after the lottery was over with, man, we're now faced with several moves here as we talk about some of the things. This is the latest article written by a key contributor on Pelican content on our website, whothatdaily.com. Mr. Rel Wright talks about this. Does a really a good job about the expansion. This is something that Commissioner Silva has mentioned. This was one of the worst kept NBA secrets in a while. The fact that they are looking at potentially adding on two teams, and this is something that we knew they were going to happen. Seattle Sonics, who did a good job of renovating their building. That was the biggest block to Seattle getting a NBA team, was the arena. They got that taken care of. And Las Vegas. This was Stern kind of tried to stay away from Vegas because of the obvious situation. Silva doesn't have any interest in that. He wants to put a team there as well. We've seen all professional teams want to go to Vegas. We've seen the Raiders go there. We've seen them get a new hockey team, which in a couple years, I think they won a championship. We've seen WNBA is there. We've seen quite a few people there. And now NBA wants to go to Las Vegas with a potential team. So this is what's being mentioned. Now, how does this impact the Pelicans outside of the revenue share? Is the fact that this could create an alignment issue or a realignment happening within the NBA that could impact the New Orleans Pelicans. Let's delve into this article right here. Could the New Orleans Pelicans shift to the Eastern Conference? And this is what Rel says. Y'all hit the like button, hit the sub button, sub up, put comments in the section below and let us know how you feel about this. The NBA's long anticipated expansion plans are heating up, with Adam Silver announcing a July meeting with team owners to formally discuss adding two teams to the league. With tremendous interest from Seattle and Las Vegas, the league's potential shift to 32 teams has sparked conversation about conference alignment. Now, Evan Sidbury, had a tweet that basically confirmed the fact that there is a lot of tremendous interest in Seattle and Las Vegas. He's basically letting these teams, or these cities know rather, that the NBA professionally is coming to you. All right, for the New Orleans Pelicans, this can mean a move to the Eastern Conference. The team currently in the Western Conference Southwest Division is geographically among the league's easternmost Western team, making them a prime candidate for the shift. However, how would such a move impact the franchise? A transition to the Eastern Conference could offer significant advantages for the Pelicans. How so? Historically, the team has performed better against Eastern Conference opponents, boosting a 355 to 366 record over 5 years compared to their 497 versus 632 record against the Western Conference foes. Wow. Facing Eastern Conference teams regularly might also represent an easier path to the playoffs, as the West is often seen as a more competitive conference. This is true. However, the move isn't without potential drawbacks. Leaving the Western Conference would serve with several long-standing divisional rivalries with teams like Dallas and Memphis, which have added intensity to the Pelicans' schedule. Additionally, an Eastern Conference shift could change team dynamic, as they would face a different set of challenges and strategies from their new competition. Lastly, if the NBA ultimately eliminates conferences altogether, any perceived benefit from the move might become moot, as the league would seed playoff teams 1 through 16 regardless of geography. So this is also a talking point when you talk about realignment with the team, right? When we talk about which way they would go, there were also conversation about eliminating divisions and it just be the Western and Eastern Conference, and teams would just have schedules, this type of stuff, and they just would battle within the conferences to make it simple, right? A lot of people are for that, and as not so much as separating all the teams, but this is the NBA conference could look if they did use the alignment with 32 teams outside of just Eastern and Western, and they still kept Northwest, Pacific, Southwest, Atlantic, Central, and Southeast, right? This would what it would look like in the writer's in his idea. The Northwest, Seattle, Denver, Utah, Portland, Seattle, Minnesota would be in the Northwest, right? Which you can see, that's interesting there, and then Golden State, the Lakers, Clippers, Kings, and Suns will be in the Pacific. The Southwest would be the Spurs, Rockets, Mavericks, Thunder, and Las Vegas team. So once again, the Northwest, in the writer's opinion, would be Denver, Utah, Portland, Seattle, and Minnesota, right? And then, of course, you transition over to the East. Where are the Pelicans? Boston, Brooklyn, Knicks, Sixers, Raptors, and Atlantic. The Central is the Bulls, the Bucks, the Cavs, the Pacers, and the Pistons. And the Southeast would be the Hawks, the Heat, the Hornets, the Magic, and the Pelicans. How does now a lot of people might disagree with this, but this is just the writer's idea on what he was saying about his opinion of what he think it would look like if the Pelicans did shift to the Eastern Conference. The only place that you would put them at if you did shift, if you kept everything the same, would more than likely be in the Southeast against Atlanta, Miami, Charlotte, Orlando. And, those would be interesting. It'll be an interesting battle, being that the Pelicans have struggled to beat Orlando. The Charlotte team, they have not had too many problems with. Miami's been up and down. Atlanta, they've been able to get wins here against them. So, does it change a bit? And, it's very interesting because if you then look at, like he's saying, the records over the last 5 years, 355 to 366 versus 497 to 632 in the West. Definitely the numbers don't lie. The Pelicans definitely will look better in the Eastern Conference. But you guys, let me know how y'all feel in the comment section about the expansion model. How do you see it playing out? Do you agree with the writer, or do you agree that the Pelicans will ultimately stay in the Western Conference and somebody else might go in the East? Y'all let me know in the comment section below. All right, so anyway, let's keep it moving, man, as we keep it funky, all the way funky. This is, of course, we know the lottery happened, family. The lottery happened with the Pelicans as of recent, and as the team moves forward, man, this is Rod Walker. Shout out to him. 7 players from that the Pelicans could select with the 7th pick in June's draft. So this is one of the things that we look at. If players of every if the prayers of every Pelican faithful had been answered Monday night, Joe Dumars would have won the NBA lottery. With that victory, would have come at a no-brainer or decision of what to do with the number 1 overall pick. Now, the number 1 pick, Duke sensation Cooper Flagg, which will be interesting, right? So we understand exactly what's been happening with the Pelicans, man. The Pelicans didn't get the top 3, move inside the top 3 pick to pick up a guy like Cooper Flagg, or even the number 2 to get Dylan Harper, or Ace Bailey, or a BJ Edgecombe, or any of the top guys in the draft, which people would deem as, people that can change the direction of the franchise. They'll pick at 7, so they slide several spots down. This is what the writer believes will be some of the best people available at the road. Here's a ranking of 7 possible draft picks they may choose. Now, you assume top 5 guys, Flagg, Harper, Bailey, Edgecombe, and Texas guard Trey Johnson, who I like a lot, are off the board by the time the Pelicans pick at 7. These are some of the guys that you can probably look at. Con Newpel from Duke, if he had to be pegged the favorite, to be this guy. Flagg got the most attention here, but his Duke teammate was actually pretty good in his own right. Your freshman rose in his stock as the season went on. He made the Final Four. He's an excellent 3-point shooter, 41%. He had played plenty of good looks alongside of Zion Williamson. And he was an MVP of the ACC tournament. So anytime you take a shooter like Khan and put him there next to Zion Williamson, that's the focal point of what they're trying to do. Take full advantage of Zion's gravity by placing shooters all around him. A la guys like Trey Murphy, Jordan Hawkins, and Khan will be another guy there, another sharpshooter to help take advantage of Zion's abilities, right? His number 2 guy is probably the guy that I think that the Pelicans should go with, and Jeremiah Fears, right? It's the Oklahoma point guard, about 6'4", 6'5". He's going to be the first guard off the board insofar as true guards here. His name's Fears, but nothing scary about, he's afraid of nothing. This is a very tough kid. But with issues happening with DeJounte Murray recovering from a torn Achilles, Fears isn't the best shooter. He shot less than 30% on 3-pointers from Oklahoma, but he's a good in the clutch, and he can fill up the stat sheet. His best game in this season, in his one season at Oklahoma, was a 20-point, 10-assist effort against Mississippi State. So he's the guy that a lot of people think when you talk about the biggest need for the Pelicans in the draft is the point guard position. We talk about DeJounte Murray. We know he's hurt. We know Jose Alvarado is good in a reserve role. Then there's also Alfred Payton. He'll be there also in the reserve role, if for a few games here or there. But if you're looking in terms of the future of the team going forward, Jeremiah Fears to me probably would be the pick if he's there. That's granted not one of the top 5 guys slide down, but Fears, in my opinion, would probably be the best pick. He also cites Colin Murray Boyles from South Carolina. Dumars played on the Detroit Pistons bad boy team, so we know he likes toughness. Now, Murray Boyles is a 6'7" forward who fits the bill. He played 2 years at South Carolina, earning second team All SEC honors this past season. He had a 35-point game against Arkansas, where he shot a Zion like 12 of 16 from the floor. And then, of course, you move on to the fourth guy, Kaman Maluk from Duke, another Duke player. With the Pelicans draft a center in the first round for the second straight year, DC thinks they need another center. He believes that outside the fact that they drafted Yves Missi this past year with the first round pick, they do have Kelly Olynyk on a 1-year deal, but he's not really a true center. He's a big, but more of in the 4 mold than anything. And DC says, hey, we could use some more height, and I'm not mad at him for that. We can definitely use some more height. But at the first round level, 2 first round draft picks, we'll see. But this guy here, according to the writer, don't rule it out. He's 18-year-old. He stands 7'2", just started playing basketball 5 years ago. He's a rim protector. Give the Pelicans the kind of depth inside that the Mavericks have with Gafford and Derek Lively. And I can't dispute that. I do like Derek Queen, who he has listed as 5. Queen, who was also played center, is 4 inches shorter than the Duke counterpart. And Queen's strength is on the other end of the court. You may remember his winning running fall away jumper as time expired to beat Colorado State and send Maryland to the Sweet 16. If the Pelicans decide to take the best player available, he may be the pick. Is Derek Queen the guy that you guys like? And then, of course, you see other guys like Kasparis from Illinois. If he's available, the Pelicans are really in the market for a point guard. If Fears isn't available, they can go this way. 6'6", nifty passer, has a little trouble creating his own shot. He turns 19 in 2 weeks and was named 3rd team All Big Ten. How about Jace Richardson from Michigan State? 24 years ago, Jason Richardson, that's his son, Jace's father, was drafted number 5 overall by the Golden State Warriors. Is Jace a combo guard who attended the same college as his dad? Could be a lottery pick. Richardson made 3rd All-Team Big Ten in his 1 season with the Spartans. His ability to play both guard positions and NBA pedigree could work in his favor. The silver lining in the Pels sliding to number 7 spot is they don't need a player to come in to become a savior of the franchise. If healthy, he has a big if over the years. They have the pieces to be in the playoff hunt. Williamson, of course, is the key to it all. He's the guy that has the previous executive director of basketball operations, David Griffin, built his roster around. The best guess is he'll be the guy under Dumars, and it's exactly the case. We've seen Zion Williamson be the guy to represent the Pelicans in the draft. So we also realize and know that is indeed very real. And shout out to PPR. We were saying it before anybody else saying that. Hey, listen, the Pelicans are doing this. This is something that we know makes sense. If they put Zion Williamson up there, it's a lottery. They're not telling you that right now, but that you have to read the tea leaves at times. Them doing that gesture, having him up there, and being a part of it for the first time ever, saying, hey, man, this guy's going to be with our club. We're not going to trade him. We're going to build around him and with him. So that is the take. So we'll see what happens moving forward. A lot of the draft talk we talked about, a lot of the trade talk around Zion Williamson, also seen that as speculation and foolish. But at the end of the day, I do believe that the Pelicans ultimately will stick and stay with Zion Williamson. All right, here's another article right here from NOLA.com. Here's the early 2025 mock drafts, how they have the Pelicans, or who they have the Pelicans taking at the 7th position in the draft. Here's a few of them. The Athletic has Khan as the guard from Duke. Sam Vincini wrote that he'd be the best shooter in the draft, along with Texas small forward Trey Johnson. Can't rule against that. Adding another big shooter in the backcourt could add depth to a team with a budding NBA star in Trey Murphy the third. So, we talked about Trey Murphy, Jordan Hawkins, and had another shooter there. You can always have shooters, not to mention Antonio Reeves, who can shoot it too. So the Pelicans trying to have all those guards. Sports Illustrated mentions Casper is going to be the 6'6" guard. Kevin Sweeney believes he has the skills necessarily to be that position. for him. ESPN Jonathan Givony believes that the Duke center would be a good move for the Pelicans. They liken him to Rudy Gobert and Steve Adams. Could he be the guys? You know, with Yves here 6'11", averaging in them, adding another center put to the team could add size and depth and make the Pelicans formidable underneath the rim, right? Should he be the case? Bleacher Reports mentions the same thing. They talk about the guard from Duke being a versatile wing. NBA Draft Net believes Trey Johnson would be the guy there. They compare him to Nick Young and Cam Thomas as a guy that can shoot the ball, and he can shoot the ball. I mean, the guy is like instant grit shooting the ball. His defense needs a little work, but he's a big guard that don't have a problem shooting that damn ball. Yahoo Sports says Jeremiah Fears, 6'4" guard from Oklahoma. He wrote that Fears is coming off an impressive freshman season and has the tools to be the point guard of the future for the Pelicans. CBS says Kyle Boone, the Pelicans should go with the best player available, and Murray Boyles fits the mold in this particular mold. So Kyle Boone thinks it should be Murray Boyles. All right, Tankathon also mentions Trey Johnson if he's still available. The only thing is I don't think Trey will be there when it happened. Bleacher Report, another one says the big center out of Duke. So it's a mixed happy grab bag of different people for the Pelicans that they believe should take with the seventh pick overall. And a lot of people also believe, fam, that the Pelicans can ultimately trade that pick for an asset that can help them win now. A seventh overall pick in the draft. Could it be the subject of a piece that can lead to acquisition, which means that you have to combine a bunch of assets together along with the pick and see if you can bring a superstar to pair with Zion Williamson? There's a lot of that speculation going on, which leads us to this final article right here, the New Orleans Pelicans 2025 Offseason Preview. Shout out to Sport Track. They got it on the sign and they're breaking it down, and this is for some of the people to kind of educate them about the Pelicans and what's going on with the team in terms of money and everything. We cover it right here. Here we go. This is the approach: reset with a high draft pick and a healthy roster, right? What does that mean? Resetting with a healthy, with a high draft pick. Is that the mode? We haven't really heard a lot with Joe outside of the mental aspect of being tough and playing smart and tough and all this kind of stuff. But the particulars, the details in between, how do the Pelicans accomplish this? How do they do it? This is what they're facing. The idea of reset with a high draft pick and a healthy roster. Actual cap space minus $73.3 million in the red. The practical cap space is 73.3 in the red. So the Pelicans are underwater with the money. Projected luxury tax space is 9.8 million. 12 players under contract currently: Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins, Herb Jones, Carlo Mekabic, CJ McCollum, Yves Missi, Trey Murphy III, DeJounte Murray, Kelly Olynyk, Lester Quinones on a two-way deal, Antonio Reeves on a 9 guaranteed, and Zion Williamson 7.9 million guaranteed. So that's some of the guys right there. Potential free agents: Brandon Boston's unrestricted with the team option. Do they pick it up? Keon Brooks Jr. restricted two-way. Bruce Brown unrestricted. Jamal Cain restricted two-way. Elfrid Payton unrestricted team option, even though they did give Elfrid Payton a contract. I don't know if they updated it here, but they do have Elfrid Payton under contract, and Jeremiah Robinson Earl is unrestricted. A lot of people believe him and Bruce Brown are gone. So we'll see how that. The cap, dead cap, none. Projected signing exemptions, the non-taxpayer MLE at 14.1, and the biannual exception is 5.1. So those are the signing exceptions. The notable trade exceptions: you have Brandon Ingram's 13 million and Jonas Valanciunas 9.9 million in trade exceptions. The only picks the Pelicans, have is the number 7th pick in the draft. Notable extension candidates: Herb Jones on a vet extension, so is CJ McCollum, and Zion Williamson, who did get his money as well. And this is the analysis of the writer. Each offseason is starting to feel like Groundhog Day in New Orleans. Talented team coming off, and let me kind of highlight some of this stuff here. They're coming off a season waylaid by injuries and needs to find a way forward, rinse and repeat. Pelicans did start a bit of a reset when they traded Ingram away at the trade deadline, as opposed to letting Ingram walk at free agency. New Orleans got a future first-round pick and a couple of helpful players for the veteran wing. Now the Pels have to hit with their draft pick and get guys healthy. Sound familiar? Because of, let's kind of move it a little further. Because of how things went so poorly with injuries, Ingram, Zion, DeJounte, Herb, Trey, CJ, and Jordan all suffered season-ending injuries. The Pelicans were never really competitive this season. They always seemed to have enough guys around to keep them in games, but they lost a lot. Now, he makes no mention of Willie Green's coaching here. This is the sticking point of some of the people that watch the basketball, and their opinion is that outside of the building, they don't know about the particulars. Now, they do have some accurate information here. It's just not, it's different degrees of accurate, meaning that, you delve deeper into the below the epidermic level of the issue. And a lot of times they had some injuries, and not just Zion Williamson. He does a good job here to mention that Zion, DeJounte, Ingram, Herb, Trey, CJ, and Jordan Hawkins. Hell, that's most of your shooting right there going on in the season. Now, they were times when they had players where they could have won games with Willie Green, and a lot of it was his stupid ass coaching. We just got to admit to that. His poor management in these games, putting in the wrong people at times, not motivating them, not coming through with a good strategy, not establishing an identity of the team consistently. A lot of that played a part. You won't hear this in that article. I'm just giving you some extra on some little seasoning on top of this thing. That means that New Orleans will have a high pick in the 2025 draft, and we all know what that means. It's going to be the 7th pick, pending how the lottery goes, which this is real prior to it. So obviously the Pelicans would take Cooper Flag if they have opportunity. Harper should be up next because of team's long-term stability in the court. They mentioned all this other stuff. And that brings us to the biggest decision of all the Pelicans. Is it time to consider trading Zion Williamson? We know how the Pelicans handled it. I've often said it. I don't think it's time for the Pels to trade Zion Williamson. I always thought that was a bunch of BS, that you don't trade your biggest draw. Nobody's going to watch these games if you don't have somebody to draw. If you disrupt and trade Zion Williamson, who do you put in his stead? You got to have a star to build around. Without that, and like I said, you take that away, the Pelicans are lost. And you have Willie Green there as the head coach. He's lost already, so they're even more lost. They're in the freaking Bermuda Triangle if you do that. But Williamson awesome when he played. In fact, you could argue he was his best Williams is looking in the NBA. Unfortunately, it was for all 30 games. That's the 4th time in 6 years that Williamson has played 30 games or fewer in a season. Let's back up a second actually to address another crucial item for Williamson's contract. The star forward deal is particularly guaranteed at 25-26 season because he didn't hit on any of the games played triggers, but the Pelicans only recoup any sort of savings if they waive Williamson. Is that on the table? And this is the thing, right? They talking trade, of trading Zion Williamson and all this kind of stuff. And listen, it's my personal opinion that I don't think that's going to happen. It don't make sense. Business sense. You have to have a player that's going to draw. The Pelicans do not have a superstar on this team outside of Zion Williamson. Now, the philosophy could be they could be using or looking to use this pick and perhaps a collection of players that is outside the core to be able to solicit another superstar to play next to Zion Williamson. Perhaps this could be what the Pelicans are doing with their interest in Milwaukee with Giannis. We don't know exactly how it's all going to play out, but at some point you have to look at it and say, hey man, anything is fair value. I just think outside of the Zion trade, and like we said, him showing up at the lottery, representing the team at the lottery, is an indication that the Pelicans are committed to Zion Williamson. Anything else would be foolish. Unless Zion says he wants to be out of here and wants to force his way out, then you would accommodate him. But under the new regime, me personally think, and we'll go through this article and I'll give my little 2 cents on it, and you guys put it in the comment section what you think. But, he's saying if the playoff team fancy themselves a contender, washes out early than expected, making a move for Williamson's the ultimate boom or bust type of deal. 60-ish games, he would be a tremendous this, that, and the third. We'll just go right past that because I don't even think that's something worth even noticing about Zion. And we'll go into, the next topic. New Orleans has a ton of talent on the roster. Murphy looks like a potential all-star. Jones is an annual all defensive guy. He's improving offensively. Yeah, and that's the thing before Herb started getting repetitively hurt. Herb was hitting that stand-up three-point shot. You know, he that stationary three-point shot, Herb was knocking that shot down. So it'd be interesting to see what Herb looks like on the other side of the injuries, right? And him being able to stay healthy and totally develop game. East Messi was a hit as a rookie and looks like a long-term answer at the center position. Love Yeeves, ran the flow well, played defense, had some shot block and dunked on some guys, but was really impressed with him during this season. McCollum and Murray are solid vet guards. Hawkins still has potential despite a rough sophomore season. And Jose Alvarado and Kelly Olynyk are good backups at point guard and center respectively. Adding a high draft pick to the group and you might have something there, but the health issues still remain. Murray's coming off a torn Achilles tendon, which would likely cost him half or more of that of the season. And then who knows if Murray can get back to his previous level. Beyond that, Zion Williamson and Trey Murphy and Jones shake off the injury bug and stay healthy. McCollum will be 34 next season. He picked up several injuries over the years. Almost every key rotational player has some form of lingering health concern, which that's why I was trying to let people know that it's always this bullshit about Zion Williamson always hurt. I'm telling them Zion's not the only freaking guy that's hurt. And you look at the list of people he's mentioned, that's half the top starters and rotational pieces. So you can't he's been impacted a little bit more than those guys, granted, but still in all, a lot of these guys are getting hurt more so than they ever did, right? The other issue surrounding the roster is if and when someone is healthy, there are a lot of guys who need to play. It never became an issue last season because Pelicans were never healthy enough for it to matter. Given how things have gone, maybe it never becomes an issue. I don't totally know what to say about that. I just figured that Pelicans had enough people at times to win games. Either there was a lot of the strategy was bad, they wasn't motivated. How do you explain them being in games to start the game off and then having an epic collapse in the third quarter? We're gonna blame that on injuries? At some point, you got to factor in head coaching and movement of player in proper position to win. Strategy, it's called. At some point, we got to talk about that. A lot of them just don't get that. But on the team's own free agents, Bruce Brown is clearly the most interesting guy, given the Pelicans are sitting just below the luxury tax line. Re-signing Brown might not be on the table, but a sign and trade could be. That would be a good way for New Orleans to get some value out of Brown as opposed to watching him leaving free agency. I think that's smart. Brandon Boston Jr. is the next intriguing free agent. He had the breakout season before suffering a long-term injury. When New Orleans signed Boston from a two-way deal, they set it up so they can decline his team option for next year. That would allow the Pelicans to sign Boston to a longer deal. The other path is to pick up the option and see how things go for Boston next season. This is probably the most prudent path forward, given this turned into a kind of lost season for the young wing. Williamson, McCollum, and Jones are all extension eligible. Nothing is going to happen with Williamson or McCollum. Pelicans are going to want to keep flexibility with Williamson long term, while extending McCollum again would likely send the fan base or family base into hysterics. No, you don't. You're gonna use McCollum as a piece. Like, we've been waiting for this time. Between now and the trade deadline of 2026, the Pelicans will have time. Joe Dumars, Troy Weaver, the Mime. These guys will have an opportunity to kind of discover or really look into if they, what's out there, because CJ McCollum contract is its most attractive at this point of time. Not exactly now, but between the season starting and the trade deadline, he has this contract and it's an expiring deal, which should be attractive to many different teams. So that has to be factored in as they're moving forward, depending on what they do on the draft and whatever they do during the season, if you know what I mean. We'll see what they got going on. Herb Jones is a bit more interesting, coming off an injury and 2 years left on his deal. An extension can wait for him too. New Orleans needs some luck in the draft at the very least. They really don't need any bad luck. Coming away with the potential star plays gives the Pelicans some different paths forward. If they choose to retool a roster around a high lottery pick, they can be done without having to commence a teardown. New Orleans also could bank on the addition of a talented rookie combined with better health to make the playoff push. At this point, the Pelicans could go in any direction. History suggests they won't extend this down period if they can avoid it. That could mean moves coming, but likely in the direction of playoff contention as opposed to resetting. It's hard to argue against that given the talent on the roster, but it's hard to bank on much success given the injury history. Eventually, something has to change one way or the other. It just doesn't seem likely to change this offseason. And this is the updated analysis on the post-draft commentary. Luck did not go the Pelicans' way. They dropped from 4th pre-lottery to the 7th pick. That takes New Orleans out of the range of Edgecombe, Bailey, which is a bit of a bummer. The team's still in range to select Trey Johnson and a few Jeremy Fears, Casper. And if those would go a long way towards helping the Pelicans stabilize the backcourt. Now, and like I said, I don't totally disagree with everything the writer has said in this preview. And we did a preview breakdown for you guys to check out too. It'll be attached to this video at the end for you to look at. Me and DC did one a couple of shows ago. Like I said, the biggest hindrance in our estimations of dealing with the New Orleans Pelicans, for those people on the outside looking in, or they don't know the people that attach to the team, we have some really good writers out there that'll tell it like it is. And that's because of you, the faithful. You are fixing their facts and getting them straight on a lot of different things in their comment section to when they write in these pieces. I see pieces where the people in the comments section is getting the writer straight, because the narrative is always this weird thing about injuries being something that nobody can control. It's like it just comes in and do whatever it wants, and you just hope it don't tear you up too bad. That's not the case. We can minimize to a great deal the injuries based on our intelligence of dealing with the matters of who is responsible for fixing the injuries. If we can spend, we being the Pelicans, we being Gail freaking Benson, can open up her damn purse and spend real money to bring in the best health officials, the best doctors, the best specialists, whether it's soft tissue, bone, whatever you got to do. You go out and you find the best people you possibly can, and you bring them here to help this team. Institute new regiments, whatever you got to do. This is the thing that needs to happen, because for the last several plus years, the team has been dealing with this injury situation, and for every year they're constantly blaming injuries for why they're underperforming, why the team can't do anything. David Griffin didn't do a good enough job of appeasing that. He started going into the injuries and blaming injuries as opposed to attacking the injury situation ferociously and aggressively, by making her understand that, hey, we're not going to consistently win a damn thing unless we fix this injury situation with the health staff. The Saints are going through the same foolishness, so it's not a isolated incident. We know exactly what the problem is. It's the Oshner health side, the sports medicine side is not good enough for what we need it to be. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. They're not. So understanding that, you have to pivot and find somebody that is aggressively and better than what we've been getting for the last several plus years. The problem is Gail Benson just breed up with these Oshner people. Several months ago, we covered it on the show. We showed the articles where they just read up with them again. So it is easier for them to blame injuries than it is for them to want to fix the injuries, because it costs real money to do that by bringing in the best doctors. Now, with that being said, outside of that, the issue is the leadership. Willie Green, and there's many criticisms of Willie Green, but the biggest one of Willie Green is the fact that he has not, over his 4 years, able to establish an identity for the New Orleans Pelicans. What are the Pelicans? What are their identity? He has not done that in 4 years here, even though he went from having a staff that somebody picked for him to basically having people that he picked himself. So at this point, he should be more successful than he's ever been. He was a rookie then. We've afforded him 4 years to get better, and there's been minimal improvement from Willie Green coming into this year. We took a patient approach with Willie to see if he was going to take the steps, but his peers, guys like Mosley from Orlando and others, are doing significantly better than Willie Green is doing. They're getting their teams to the postseason as opposed to the play-in and blaming injuries for why they're failing. Even though these other teams are dealing with injuries like the Pelicans are, but they still are getting to the playoffs. So the problem is Willie Green. You bring in Joe Dumars, you bring in Weaver, Cash, and all these other people leave, and there's a lot of movement, migration from people going out to coming in at the administrative level. The key point is Willie Green the guy? Now, they have not committed to Willie Green. They have not committed to Willie Green officially, but there are rumors circulating that Willie Green could get an administrative position inside the Pelicans organization. If that is indeed the case, then that would mean that Gail Benson is up to her old tricks by doing the bull crap she did when we had Elvin Gentry for 1 year when they fired Demps and hired David Griffin. And he came in and kept Gentry, which made no sense. That was because that was Gail Benson and her "he's such a nice man" bullshit. It's the same thing happening this time around. So is Joe Dumars doing it in a way where he could pull Willie up out of the head coaching position, making him an administrator inside of the organization, appeasing the fact that he's keeping him as a member of the team, and as opposed to keeping him as the head coach so he can mess up and everything. And you compound that with the fact that Willie Green also lost his team. So how does he get to keep his job? And the fact that there are more credentialed and respected head coaches that Willie Green can only hope to hold he could be a good assistant coach on their squads. But no, these other guys are way more credentialed. I mean, I would take a Taylor Jenkins. I would take a Malone. I would take a Sam Cassell. I really would over Willie Green. At least I know those guys will come in and they would establish toughness and not run from it, and this kind of nonsense. So in the end, those are two of the key things. The health staff needs to be addressed. The head coach situation needs to be addressed. Like I said, they did not commit to Willie Green. There are rumors circulating where they want to put him up, and if that's them talking about getting him in an administrative position just to have him there, I think that would be a brilliant, very genius move by Joe Dumars if that was indeed the case. He can't fire him, but he could promote him up into the administrative level in some development role while he hires the coach that he wants. Now, we don't know this for certain. It's just rumorville right now. But we shall see as the season moves forward whether that is true or Willie Green will head the team for 1 year under Joe Dumars. We shall see. And then that's the top things. Everything else will fix itself. If you got a better health staff, you will see better results in the Pelicans. Players playing more games. You got a leadership at the head coaching level that established the identity. Everything else falls into play. Who you pick up with the draft, who you add to the team, all that fits in place. But adding players to a team without understanding what's the philosophy of the team and what we're supposed to do in this type of stuff will be foolhardy. You basically, building a house without blueprint plans. Who does that? You get all kind of shit, right? I most certainly don't want to ride on a bridge that somebody created without any blueprints. you asking for trouble. So anyway, that's the top two things that kind of stifle the Pelicans is those two things. And until Joe Dumars can see that, then he will suffer the fate that these other foolhardy general managers, VP guys did prior to him, his predecessors. If he don't see what he really needs to fix and do, then this is going to continue to happen, and it'll be a shame. But anyway, with that being said, fam, we're going to get out on that for the Pelican post-game report. Y'all do me a service. Y'all sub up if you haven't sub up. You also feel free to share the show on social media feed. Also, do me a service and hit that damn comment section and let me know how you feel about some of the topics in the news that we covered on this episode of the Flash Report. Y'all let me know. Shout out to my co-hosts DC and Lex. Much love to you guys, and shout out to you guys for continuing to show us unbridled support. With that being said, I'm Big Q, and I'm gonna holler at you on the next one. Much love. Go Pels. Peace.
Subscribe now and stay up to date for all things New Orleans Pelicans.